for people who move to this area, the SiestaKey area of Florida, and for people who live here right now, like my sister called me the other day. She's like, "You weren't anywhere near SiestaKey." Yes, I was. I was, as far as the bird flies, like just a mile away, right? But we're not like other waterfront communities in that we have 35 miles of access where it's easy to get to. And for people around the world who are moving here, Dave and I and our teams are, I don't know, the word is slammed. We're very, very busy. We're increasing our capability. And the training that it takes to keep that going, you were just addressing, because we're people persons. But what is the other level of engagement that's important when you're working with people, Dave? What were you just mentioning?
No, I think we are in the people business, and we love helping people, and we use our expertise and our skill set to help people, listening to them to get them the best deal, whether it's a first-time home buyer or someone moving here as a second home. But we have a lot of people fleeing New York, California, Illinois, Wisconsin, and they're moving to Florida, over 1,000 people a day. And you just mentioned 35 miles of white sandy beaches, golf courses, and jobs, right? We always talk about jobs. You and I have our finger on the pulse of the marketplace, and we're able to educate people on those things, why now is a good time to buy.
And the other part of that education process is you and I both step back a lot, and we train. With the business model that I'm involved in, it allows me to leverage that training because eXp is a cloud-based company. That means I'm in a training classroom absolutely every day, and I time block my time. So I'm working out in the morning, I'm working with the service dogs, shout out to working dogs. I meet people all over the place who are involved with working dogs. And fortunately for me, I met one of the head of the canine units yesterday, sheriffs, and it wasn't because I was speeding. It was that we were both gassing up, and I saw the canine unit, and I went over to introduce myself. So in our community, we're always aware of what's going on, and Dave and I are both giving back to our community, and we both want to give back to all the agents who may not have the understanding of how we're honing in on these access points. But it's 20 years of education, not just 20 years of doing it, because now we're leveraging the tools that we have, and it allows me to watch the algorithms of buying patterns and algorithms of what it is that is on the tip of people's mind. And that's why Dave and I are happy to be faces and voices out there, so you get used to knowing how friendly we are, how much we're going to help you. And the data points today I'm actually going to bring up on the screen. Dave won't see them, but he'll hear me talk about it, because I've noticed that there's some agents and some of their clients are calling me and texting me and saying, how is it that you're getting this information? Our MLS, our Realtor Association of Sarasota and Manatee, the second thing we have as far as ethics is we have a duty to cooperate. And that's also within our MLS, we offer compensation. So Dave and I get compensated for being really smart at what we do and being very friendly. It's the two data points that allow us to incorporate and help these thousands of people who are moving to our area absolutely every week. And a realtor out there who's a people person but doesn't have access to this same type of training, in my team, I'd be happy to bring you and train you and show you. Or if you're a realtor that I work with all the time, and a duty to compensate, an offer to compensate. One of my favorite agents out there, Tammy Garner, she will just point blank tell you, if she sees that listing as a discount listing, she is going to get on the phone with that seller's agent and say, I don't work for that. I don't work for a discount. She's been here forever and knows more about real estate than a lot of agents have even just learned. And she is really a good teacher about compensation. So for sellers agents and sellers, if you really want to interface with the top opportunity to have a smooth transaction, you're going to want to interface with a real live realtor who is a member of an association. We handle 16 counties in the state of Florida, who has upheld confidentiality and also upheld the duty to cooperate. So in MLS, it's an offer for compensation, and in our realtor designation, it is a duty to cooperate. And I am married to a man, not that long. We've only been together for 8 years. He found a piece of property in Volusia County, and it was an agent that I knew and I'd worked with a lot, and I've handled a lot of transactions in Volusia and Dade County. And the agent got on the phone with me and said, I'm not paying you and I'm not cooperating with you. If your husband wants this property, you better get over there right now. And I got off the phone and I knew this guy. I knew he was going to throw that curveball at me, because there's a pocket over in Volusia County that you really got you really got to watch. They have no offer for compensation when they publicly listed. It's absolutely crazy. And my husband ended up buying the property, and this agent really violated the realtor code that we have. And he was a member of an association over there. But my husband wanted that property, and what I did was I just, as a professional, I was cooperative, and he didn't compensate me. My husband negotiated a deal where there was no compensation in it, and then I just made sure I brought in inspectors so that anything that wasn't disclosed got figured out. So I wasn't leaving my husband in a lurch. So in that being said, in the last 7 days, we had a lot of transactions in both counties, but while I'm looking those transactions up over the internet, you will see me pull these transactions up. So if you're an agent or you're wondering what's going on in our marketplace, this is the real deal, what Sandra and Dave are talking about. Then while you're talking, Dave, about the interest rates, what the Fed said last week, there were a couple of things that came across in your news report. I'll pull that information up. So you take it now, Dave.
Yeah, no, Sandra's talking about the process, and so much goes into buying real estate, and you really need to lay it out. Interest rates remain historically low. The bond market, which drives interest rates, the Fed's looking at the stimulus package, and obviously we're stalled with the stimulus package. But the good news is, you know, at the Reader's Digest version, is they're not going to raise rates currently, even though the job market's a little unstable. We are kind of in a better position now than when the pandemic broke out. But I do feel now is the time to buy. Interest rates remain low. And, you know, Sandra's going to show you the real numbers with closings. And if you want to have a competitive offer in today's market with Sandra and myself, I'm still closing deals in 30 to 35 days when the majority of mortgages are being pushed out 45 days. We as a company last month closed 2,452 closings as a country, you know, nationwide. That's a lot of closings, 2,452. So to be able to close all those on time, we pride ourselves on that, Sandra, and that really helps, like you mentioned earlier, with no stress. We really try to lay out a great experience for the customer.
Well, Dave, what's your secret for closing within 30 days? Now, I know what it is, but I want you to say it out loud from a market perspective, because I'm sending agents to you left and right for this very reason.
Yeah, so we're real big on the education, but we do a thorough pre-approval process up front where I look at pay stubs, tax returns, bank statements, and I look at what's best for you as a customer, and then I lay out that plan. So then when Sandra finds you the right home and you make an offer, we're ready to go. I order the appraisal usually 3 or 4 days into the process. And the appraisals, if you don't know what the appraisal is, that's just an independent third party who's going to look at that property to make sure that you're not overpaying for it. And there's checks and balances with the appraisal. And some of the appraisals are taking as much as 3 weeks to a month, but we have local appraisers on my panel that can get those done still in less than a couple of weeks, Sandra. So the secret is moving everything along up front, not waiting, but then treating everybody with VIP service, red carpet. And I guess we take it for granted. I'm still closing 99 out of 100 deals on time. Not everybody does that, but you know, working with me and you mentioned it, 20 plus years experience, thousands of transactions. And now, like what you said, through social media, getting the word out, you have the choice. You could work with a professional like Sandra that has a fiduciary duty to cooperate and knows the rules and is ethically bound by that. And I do the same thing.
Oh, that's so nice. And you kind of laughed the other day when we were kind of talking about some of that. I come from a really honest perspective of obeying the rules. Just tell me what the rules are and I'm going to stay in that, because I grew up where my father had gas stations and then we converted them to convenience stores. And then he got the idea of having them open 24 hours. And by the way, in all 4 seasons of Iowa, being open 24 hours relied on our ability to make sure that store was open, because we had people buying groceries, baby formula from us. But at that time in Iowa, you could buy alcohol when you were 18, and I think we cut off the sale. I don't know if it was 10 o'clock or 2 o'clock in the morning. And if of course I'm working, and I don't remember how old I was, but I wasn't going to sell one of my friends alcohol and have my dad lose his liquor license, because that would stop me from going to college, and it would betray what my parents were trying to do with paying for their mortgage. So from a business approach, we're talking about these happy, wonderful rules that are set in place so that since we've had Realtor Association and the multiple listing service, which used to be books and books and books of paper, we've set forth these guidelines so everyone is treated fairly.
Yeah, I think that's phenomenal. And you talk about fairly too. And I think a lot of people, they jump into Zillow and Realtor.com and they're looking at properties. And we just had one of your customers recently who put the cart before the horse, where they wanted to buy a property. They responded to one of your amazing ads on there, but they weren't ready. So they didn't have the pre-approval. So by the time you get them to the house, it could be gone. So I think one of the first steps is they have to talk to a professional like me, just so they know what the payment, they get that pre-approval letter, because that seller wants to know that whoever's making the offer, A, either has a proof of funds if it's cash, or B, they have a pre-approval letter, which is like a cash offer, right?
Right, exactly. Can I close in 30 days? And if it's a letter from you, yes, they can close in 30 days. So I'm going to pull up some real numbers real quick and read them to you. And the nice thing about you being patient with me. So in the last 7 days in Sarasota County, we had 246 closings.
It's unbelievable.
And this is going to be 246 closings.
Wow.
And I'm really going to have to edit the video because it's going to be my eyes and my forehead, but we're really looking to educate everyone here so that you can see these numbers. And so I have the MLS, and being a member also means I'm watching the security. No one else uses my MLS. We pay a fee, and these data points are very reliable. We use great tools, and they do all over the United States. So now I'm going to choose single family homes of the 246 closings that we had in Sarasota last week based on this exact time. Normally I pull up all the closings around 8 o'clock in the morning, 8:30 at the latest. Sometimes there's an extra one that I find for a title company that had closings late Friday night and they're putting it in first thing in the morning. So my preference is 8:30, and our preference is a lot of times I'm on video with you by 8:40, but now that we're back all on the road, we're not stressing ourselves out with traffic anymore. So we had 156 single family homes, and in the MLS, it's not completely reliable. If I put in the number 2020, it'll give me an exact data point of this home was built in 2020. And we have a drop-down box that gives me that new construction. And I've seen it not be reliable because the data wasn't put in there correctly. The tax record doesn't lie. That's why I pull up the 2020. In the last 7 days of the new construction, we had 22 single family homes. A whole new Grady Point right off of Tallabassine Prospect just opened up, and it has 181 homes. KB Homes called me first to do a video tour. And in that video tour, I know those homes are going to go like hotcakes because it's a data point at our average price, which there's a button on the MLS that I can click right now. First, I have to click on results. And by the way, I'll tell you the low sales price in Sarasota single family home was in Northport for $198,000. Is that correct? And the high sales price was out in Artistry for it was 4810 Pastel Court, and it was $525. The high price out in Artistry can be $1.5 million. That is such an amazing community. Coulter Homes is Coulter Builders are building a lot of our buildings downtown. They are a phenomenal builder. They build everything like a fortress. They're on larger lots. Artistry is an amazing community right off Palmer. And a home that closes in around 500 is a very base model, but their base model is better than a lot of custom builders' best. So in clicking on any listing in there, there's a button up to the right-hand corner. It's the real RPR report that's provided free in our multiple listing service. And when I click on that RPR report, it'll show several more data points, everything about that particular listing, and I click on Sarasota. I click on Sarasota County, and it shows a data point of the average price in the last, and it goes the last 7 days, the last 12 months was $289,090. So Sarasota is almost up to 3. Manatee, I think that number might have tipped over 3 this week. Let's find out if anybody's a horse racing fan and they're betting the spread right now. Manatee is outpacing, and it just happens to do with some value points that they're very good at. And as a county, both Sarasota and Manatee counties are both very well managed counties. And the change over the last 30 days was 1.93%, and the change over the last 12 months was 4.49%. These data points, of course, are going to be startling and shocking for anybody who thought or was reporting on national television about housing problem and housing problems that are coming. Yes, there are a fair number of people in America that stop paying their mortgage, and I can click this button right here on this tool, and it'll show me concentration of distressed properties. We have a concentration of distressed properties on the edge of Sarasota County, and it happens to be bordering a couple of areas that are very high density, and there are great choices for new construction. So I'm not so sure if somebody just said, I don't want to go back to work, I don't want to pay my mortgage, let somebody else handle that. We'll see that in the next 24 months, what happens to those distressed properties. I spoke about that about 4 months ago, and we're not seeing a lack of jobs in the area. PGT Industries is similar to many others right now that are offering employment bonuses. Are you still there, Dave?
Yeah, I'm still here, and I love what you're saying. And you mentioned the forbearance, and I just saw a thing. So when the pandemic broke out, over 4 million Americans went to what we call forbearance, where they elected not to make a payment for a certain amount of time. And then that whatever lender you were with, servicer, sometimes they put that forbearance on the back. But the government passed a few rules, Sandra, that people need to be aware of. If you were in forbearance and you're struggling and your mortgage is coming out of forbearance, as long as you're current on your mortgage, you can refinance that. So in the old days, if you were in a forbearance, you could never refinance it, but the government wants to keep you in the home. They don't want to see any distressed properties. And I do believe as the market continues to go up, even if people are having a hard time, kind of foolish to let that property go into foreclosure because they could sell that property, right, as the market goes up and make money on it. So it'll be interesting to see the foreclosure market. But I do think a lot of those homes that went into forbearance back in March and April are starting to come out of forbearance now. So the market's healthy. And you mentioned the average price, $289,090. What that means to people listening as a first-time buyer, you can get into that home with 3.5% down payment. That's only $10,118. And if you look at these interest rates, Sandra, below 3%, the mortgage payment on something like that for a first-time buyer, it's only about $1,450, $1,450. So as you mentioned, some of these new homes with 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, you can't rent for that. So renting first, last, and security, and rent for a 3-bedroom, 2-bath being closer to $2,000, you can get almost $600 off by buying a house. And then you get some tax benefits there as well. So a lot of positives that, if we look at the numbers, why that makes sense to buy versus rent.
Well, that's like my Estee Lauder deal of the day. In other words, what drives me in to my favorite Barbara Bannister, who works at Saks Fifth Avenue at the Estee Lauder counter. And Barbara's out there on social media everywhere. And you just have to look her up. She's just showed on Facebook a picture of sparkly heels that look like something Judy Garland wore in The Wizard of Oz, but hers has a flag on it. And you know she's going to be walking around Saks Fifth Avenue like that. But the Estee Lauder deal that draws me in, I don't shop, I buy. And in real estate, you and I are very good at working with buyers, not shoppers. We want to pre-qualify them, find out what their motivation is. But when I talk about the Estee Lauder deal, I'm talking what draws me in there to Saks. Number one, Barbara's the best makeup person. Anytime I make a makeup mistake, she fixes it. And I shopped here for 20 years to finally find somebody who could help me. How do you do your eyebrows? How do you do everything? But the other part of that is, at a certain point in time, sometimes Saks has a discount. You use their card, you come in, you get 30% off. And then always, I'm looking for that little gift case that has everything in it. So Dave, you and I are always looking with people who are buyers, not shoppers. And in the offer that we're presenting is neighborhoods that fit your desire, price point that fits your needs, and we're also working to provide a service so that the problems that happen in a transaction don't cause you to have a deal fall apart and miss that home, because next year, if we have this level of scarcity and this many jobs, next year, the only thing that'll change is some new construction and higher prices. So our effort is to help you buy now with these never before seen interest rates, aren't they, Dave?
Yeah, and it's funny you should say that. And I had a younger person last week that backed away from a deal. The stress got to them. They were all approved, but they were selling a home and don't really know what happens with people. But I was trying to explain to this couple, their home even came in higher on the appraisal. So they had instant equity when they walked in. But if they wait a year, I told them, if the home goes up 8%, which it could, you're looking at buying the same home, 4-bedroom, 2-bath in a great community with good schools. But for them, they're going to have to pay $22,000 more for the same house. And if rates jump to 3.5%, they were going to pay about $254 per month more, every single month forever for the exact same house. So sometimes the cost of waiting, right, doesn't make sense. And that's part of the education process. And that's part of doing things right, talking to us first before they start looking at real estate so that they don't have to make those mistakes. We can give them the ins and outs so they can make great decisions for them and their family.
Speaking of mistakes, my analogy that popped into my head is we train high energy working dogs. And I'm not the lead trainer. I work with some of the top trainers in this area. Shout out to Euro K9 Pro off of 70. Love them. And they know what they're doing with pinchers, Belgian Malinois, German Shepherd working dogs. And in my household, when I'm feeding the dogs cheese, right? I'm really good because those trainers taught me a long time ago, when you're working with a working dog and the dog is that quick, then you want to have your hand at a different angle. And so I do that with the Pomeranian, just out of habit. Here's your cheese. Do that with the German Shepherd working dog in our house and the 2 Malleys. But every so once in a while, when my husband forgets and he walks out of the room and he's walking like this, right? And he's holding his hand, right? He knows that dog didn't mean to bite him. In real estate, we're working to help you as a buyer and seller not get bitten in the process so that you completely back off. There's nothing in this process that's new to Dave and I. What's new is the human experience of us learning your motivation, learning your goals, and we're going to do what we can to bring and fold in at the level that you can learn, because this is the single largest financial investment most people make every couple of years. It's not the largest decision they make, it just happens to be so financially oriented and there's so many moving parts to it that somebody could feel like, you know, kind of bitten by that, like that young couple that just backed off. Yeah. That could cause them to not be able to regroup for 8 or 10 months. And by that period of time, prices have gone up, the cost of carrying the house that they don't want to own anymore, it may have gone up, but there's a carrying cost. And if they didn't like the home in the beginning, it was because it didn't fit their motivation, whatever their needs were, right, Dave?
It did, and I feel like they didn't have the right person like you that belongs to an association, a realtor, protecting them and giving them the sound information. There's only so much I can do as an individual, as a lender, as a mortgage professional. The concierge, the real deal provider, somebody that keeps the deal together, is a real estate professional, right? Because you work and you wear so many hats. You help with the home inspections, the appraisals, the lender, the closing companies, right? There's so many things, like you said, you have to walk along. It's like a board. I call it loanopoly. It's like if you look at the Monopoly board, we're getting a loan and buying a real estate, there's a process that goes around there as well. I should send that over to you. But it's great for people to have a visual and to see that. And that young couple, like you said, the cost to carry their current home, and I know he has a smaller condominium, he got top dollar, and if the market, I don't know if he's going to be able to get that price again for him. So not only is he losing out on the purchase in a better area with better schools, right? He kind of made a decision based on fear, and he gave up. This was what happened. And I hadn't seen that in a long time. But it's important, like you said, to be able to educate people. And but I think if you would have started the process early, if that realtor would have started the process early and did what they should have done, we wouldn't have had that problem.
Oh my goodness, those are the stories we hate to hear. And that happens with all this information out there on the internet, do it yourself. This is not a do-it-yourself project because there's disclosures, there's moving parts. And let me give you some manatee numbers, by the way, so that we see all the people who are being helped by active professional realtors. Congratulations for all those closings last week, because it's a lot of effort to be out there with the mayhem that's going on and keeping things glued together. And with the closings that you had this last week and the week before, I know you were involved with them. So let me pull up the manatee numbers, and I'll just click the search button. I'm on it all the time, so there's going to be some autofill. 7. I'm over here, and when I click on county, so we had 183 sales in the last 7 days in Manatee County. And the nice thing you and I know, Manatee County has Parrish, Palmetto, and Ellington, which is USDA territory. But I searched it this morning. There was one USDA property that I would send to somebody. So right. the pickings are getting even slim in USDA terms, and I very well may end up taking people up to Hillsborough or down to further south into Charlotte and Lee. Those aren't bad decisions. It just means if you're talking to me, you're probably already in these 2 counties, and I'm working with you on that commute time. And we had 183 closings in the last 7 days, and of which 183 closings, of which were 128 single-family homes, and the builders reported 12 new construction homes. I think that number is not even 1/4 of actually what's going on. There's not enough time to put in sale data only. The staff with the builder, they're just all working double time. KB Homes over at Grady Point, the KB Homes representative, Jeff, who called me, and I got over there right away, I was very excited to find out that he has an 1.5-hour drive. The home has a lockbox, so if you want to see that area, I'm right here around the corner. Anybody on my team can open it for you. And we're going to look at 2 things now. The low sale was 415th 30th Street in Palmetto for 176, and the high sale was out in Lakewood Ranch at the Isles of Lakewood Ranch, that similar area. Very beautiful homes. And I'm going to click through and show. Okay, are we betting the spread? Do we know how far it's gotten or how close it's gotten? Do we know what that upper number is going to be? 200, yep. Now this is provided for all realtors that are a member of the association in good standing, which we all are, meaning we paid our bills, we do our ethics, and we take our law classes, and we cooperate and compensate each other. This is a tool that comes with it, and if you know that the button's there, you just click over to it. Sarasota County's average price was $292,810. This is pulling up, the nice thing about this tool, it pulls up tax record changes. So for sale by owners who take and put the transaction together, when the title company files all that paperwork, this pulls tax records. So we're not just dealing with what's happening in the MLS. And in the last 30 days, we had a 0.4% increase in price. In the last 12 months, it was 5.51%.
Wow.
And in this screen, when you see it, you'll see I'll be right out there. Okay. Thank you. Yeah, please. Thank you. And concentration of distressed properties. Boy, this visual, when you see this concentration of distressed properties, is so minimal compared to what I flashed on the screen about 4 months ago. I think exactly what you were talking about with the concentration of distressed properties. There are jobs that are plentiful here. I talk on the phone to home health care workers who just got here and got these fabulous jobs. My mom's 88. She's never moving into assisted or independent living, but there are a whole crop of people out there at that age group who said, not going in there, not ever, you're not doing it to me. You're not locking me down and separating me from my family. Can you blame them?
No,
So,
you can't.
Yeah, and if you're gonna stay anywhere, a lot of them move back to be close to their family that's in some of these states that we hear about people moving out of. But these relationships, the other data point is, we're not filling up these rental units except for people who are just getting here. They're paying higher deposits or higher fees per month because they're only going to be in that rental unit for 3 to 4 months, and then they're buying a home, because there's no sense of community when you live in a rental unit, is there?
No, there isn't. You know, so they serve a purpose, but not like owning a property.
Exactly. Get to town, get into one of those places that has that concierge service, right? You know, low entrance into the deposit. Get here, get moved, and keep your stuff in storage if you need to. The first month is always free at public storage.
Right.
And if you take more than a month to figure out where you're going to go, know this, if the jobs are plentiful, we have a couple of pockets where we have acreage plus property. I alluded to that because I don't even know if there's any USDA opportunity for loans anymore. And we're going to go out to Arcadia. I very well may start bringing up Arcadia numbers because in the next 10 years, you and I are going to see that Arcadia is going to be like just a town over instead of on the other side of the county, aren't we?
Well, yeah, it is, and you've already seen it heading that way. So Arcadia is nice, you know. Arcadia is nice.
It is. I hope they start the rodeo back up, right?
Yeah, I know it'd be nice to get back to normal.
And so, any parting words before we get off today? We talked about the market numbers, the interest rate numbers as far as mortgage is concerned. Any extra thoughts that you want to give about our market perspective coming into this week, the middle of October 2020?
The market's been, like you mentioned, we're up 5.51% year over year, which is amazing. Sales seem to be healthy, 156 in Sarasota and 183 in Bradenton. That's a healthy market. Yeah, that's a really healthy market. So I think you have to call Sandra, keep watching the videos, give her a call. She's very knowledgeable. We can help you with financing. So now's a good time.
Hey, give me a call, right? Give me a call. Go surfing in Venice at the jetties. You got all the other stuff like come here and brush your teeth. If real estate makes you crazy, make sure you call Dave and I. Right. Well, help you out.
Yeah, we can definitely help you. Well, you have so much knowledge to give. It's if they land on you and they pick you, how lucky